Let's see if this works now.
How worse they got is all relative.
Yeah, but everything is relative, so that doesn't
You know what?
matter.
I'm gonna
We
say
are.
when
We're
we start.
started.
I'm gonna say it's just.
Okay.
I'm gonna start out with this for anybody that watches this when they come back around. You know what? There was no rules change today that says I could not pick up my little figure and go pew 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 at another little figure.
That's a house rule.
So I am totally okay with the rules changes because I can still make my own sound effects at other characters.
Just wait. Hey, this was only Article 1, man. Article 2, we decided in the sportsmanship of the game to remove pew-pews. The pew rule.
I will be upset at that article, but I am not upset as of today.
All right, so we'll give a little bit of time to let a couple people get some people hooked up. If you guys want to share the thing at all, that's fine. But we'll give a little bit of time for some people to hop on, listen to us crazy people talking about the crazy.
Do you guys want to talk about GameStop?
No one wants to talk about GameStop.
A lot of people want to talk
No,
about GameStop.
they don't.
Oh, all right.
Oh boy. I was not expecting this news so fast, man.
I wasn't either, and I wasn't expecting this big of changes. It's a big change.
I was expecting some changes, kind of like the 2017 change, where a lot of things changed. But this one is, this one's bigger than 2017. What changed in 2017?
I was just gonna say, what was the biggest changes then? Leadership.
They didn't remove any powers or add any powers. I know that much.
No.
They changed Earthbound. They changed flight and stuff.
Leadership.
Like hypersonic. You couldn't use an object or carry anymore.
Yeah.
Like the precision strike, energy explosion, pin psi combo was no more. I guess energy explosion was the big change.
Right.
Yeah, there was a lot of quite a bit big changes in this, and just right out the gate, already hearing this. And let me make sure I update this title. That's not right. I had a new title and it didn't do it. Indomitable knot. Wonder who came up with that. Who said? Is that a thing? Anybody know if the Indomitable knot is a thing?
I have no idea. Is that maybe what the little shield symbol was maybe called at some point?
No.
It doesn't sound like something
I don't know.
like someone just made up, but maybe it is.
Maybe it's just so old. Like maybe we're not old school enough to know.
I googled and the first thing that came up was Hero.
All right, then maybe. Okay, then maybe
probably
HeroClix did make it up, or WizKids did. So that's fine. All right, so we've got about 6 people. Has anybody shared it yet? Neither of you guys have shared it. All right, I appreciate it. I had to update the thing. I had to update the name.
I created the post. Okay, I created the post in the McDonald's drive-thru getting my chicken nuggies. So, and then I went to the grocery store, and then I'm back home. So, I'm doing pretty good tonight to be here. So,
there you go.
Well, I mean, we got people watching. Let's talk about it.
Hang on just a second.
Well,
is the PowerPoint up? I can't watch the screen because I'm not on my computer. But
the PowerPoint.
Oh, it has the wrong title on there. I hate that it doesn't have the new title on there. It does in the thing now, but oh well.
We can always.
Yeah, it just doesn't it when I shared the link, but oh well. All right, so we're gonna talk some rules changes that we saw today. We're not gonna read everything to you because everybody I know could probably read, but I will go ahead and post it up here. We got our first rules article change called the Indomitable Knot. I wonder if every rules article is going to have some cool name to it. I think that'd be sweet. Yeah, that'd be cool if they're like, we're changing energy explosion, so the pew pew, or something like that. That'd be fun. But anyway, the biggest change at
the energy explosion entanglement.
The EEEU. And then I don't know. Something funny. Anyway, so they're getting the main reason this article's out is and all these changes have happened. Is they're getting rid of pushing damage. That is the biggest change. True. They decided pushing damage is just no fun anymore, which we can all agree the general taking a damage to do a second action isn't fun. We like having the option, but it's just not fun taking the damage. Unless there's certain instances.
Yeah. It was never really a good mechanic, right? Because it started out as willpower, but then there are obvious characters that you want to have willpower and a defense power. So, like, when it first, like, it was just a flawed concept to begin with, I think.
Yeah.
Just because of that. The Indomitable was, like, trying to fix that. But it got weird. Because whenever I came back, I started way back when, and then when I came back, pieces of that Indomitable, I didn't know what it was. And it fixed the initial problem, but it was just, I don't know. It wasn't that that elegant, I guess.
Right. It's an ungraceful solution to a problem, right?
Yeah. So I definitely like taking the changes so far. I like getting rid of pushing damage.
It makes it easier to explain, right? So like they said in the article, for explaining HeroClix to a new player. For me, it's like, well, okay, if you've got Joe Schmo the Thug, he takes a pushing damage, but this character has willpower, or Indomitable that grants willpower, and he doesn't take a pushing damage as long as I don't want him to. So now here's another level of complexity to it. So I would like to just go ahead and just preface this with, for our longtime Clickstop listeners, they can guess that some of these making the game friendlier to new players is coming, right? Because when I got to kind of sit down with Zirin for a little while at Nationals 2018, he was like, I've got to make this game more open to a board game friendly, like on the shelf, right? Like you want to be able to play HeroClix like a board game along with being able to play it as we do today is kind of the gist of it, right? You need to be able to have a board game. So that's why we've seen, the Battlefield, the Battlegrounds pack, and we're seeing some of these new packs come out. And now I think the rules are getting updated to reflect some of that lower level of entry to the game.
Yeah, I agree. As somebody who has two kids I have 4 kids, but 2 that are in the age of learning HeroClix. One's 9 and one is 6. They're trying to learn the game, and it's a little difficult to explain. Well, it's not that difficult, but it's a little cumbersome to explain to them. Like, all right, here's your tokens. You can only have a maximum of 2. But if your person doesn't have a shield with a slash through it, or showing a purple shield power, then they take a click of damage because they're pushing and stuff. And it's just an extra wrinkle that is not a great entry point for people.
Yeah, it seems like it's one of the most basic things, the first things you have to explain to somebody, but it just doesn't affect half of the pieces. So that seems weird.
So anyway, that was the main thing they started was they started the article stating, hey, we're getting rid of pushing damage. It's just not a good entry point for people to get into the game. It's not it's a mechanic we just think is not beneficial anymore. And wisely, they knew, all right, if we're getting rid of pushing damage, we've got to make some other changes. One of the biggest changes is that their willpower, as you know, makes it where you just don't take damage, you don't take pushing damage. So that means willpower had no use anymore. So they equated willpower to leadership in the sense that it allowed you to act more frequently. So they are now changing willpower, and they say 2021. I don't know why they put that there. I guess whenever the new pack rolls out, it's the 2021 pack. At the beginning of your turn, you may roll a d6, 5 through 6, remove an action token from this character. So it's a self-leadership of sorts. What do you guys think generally of those changes? The new willpower. Just purely the new willpower.
I'm interested in what Dan thinks, and then I'll say mine.
I can tell you what, I had a very busy day at work today. Which is fine, right? It's one of those things, right? I sit at my desk all day, but like I was in meetings and video chats, and like my phone's sitting here buzzing on the table. So I'm like, what the heck is going on Click's Facebook today?
Yeah.
And so anyways, I've had some time to absorb it. I love the change, right? I'm not saying I'm going to love all these changes. I mean, I love HeroClix, so there's a good possibility I'm probably just going to love the changes anyways because, hell, I love to play the game. But I think this specific change, I love it. It breathes new life into a lot of older figures. Mm-hmm. It brings a lot of new pacing dynamics to the metagame. In Modern, the Tentpole episode that we did just a couple of weeks ago. I know we're not talking about the implementation yet.
It's outdated.
Man, ooh boy, ooh, I'm ready. Shoulders are flexing. I mean, Now anything that can be a self leadership, like I think that willpower just being a self leadership in and of itself, I love it. Right? You can go from 1 to 0, 2 to 1, right? Whew. You can just keep acting, right? You can just keep acting if on these characters where it's implemented.
We are going to go through, after we go through the article, we're going to go through each of the main changes and talk about some figures that these radically change. So
right. Go ahead, Tyler. You're good. You go ahead.
I like it too. I was wondering if you wouldn't like it as much because I like the change, but one thing it does do is add more randomness to the game, right? You're rolling more dice, which is something that Dan, you always like to get out of the game. So I wasn't sure how you'd feel about it. But yeah, I like it a lot. I think willpower is going to be, I don't know if it'll be sought after. It might be sought after, because it's better than people are realizing. Because it's not just a 33% chance to remove a token, because you're moving and then next turn you're rolling it on one token and then you're rolling it on, so you have actually a 50% chance between the two turns that you're rolling it to get them off, and you could even just take it off 2 turns in a row and then you're acting four turns in a row. So and then you obviously have more chances after that to hit it. So I think it's better than even most people are realizing. I just don't know.
Yeah, so sorry, Tyler. I mean, I would just add there on the randomness side of it there. Mm-hmm. I love it. I mean, it's the teams that I play typically everybody can double up anyways. Mm-hmm. It's kind of built into the pacing of it. Mm-hmm. But like, I know I'm trying not to skip ahead, Alex. But
it's
like,
okay.
my dudes, right? Starro, Star Fox, Unimind. They were already taking 2 tokens. Mm-hmm. You're telling me that Unimind can go maybe 3, 4, 5 turns in a row instead of relying on a leadership? And then I got old Groot in the back rolling leadership.
So, to be fair, this does nerf the best doggo, Lockjaw. It's a direct nerf to Lockjaw because he can because he can't push if you want him to be on a better click. You can't push him to click 2 if you want,
But now we don't know like the in cap thing, like what might happen there. Okay, we don't know quite what might happen there. but he may not be able to get in cap to death.
Oh, you're right. He could go to click 6 whenever he wants.
That's right, and I can act again on click 6.
Right. Yeah, that's true. So maybe it
now
is
pending now pending in cap changes and other things. It might change. Opinion might change in a few weeks, but the best doggo got a little bit of a got a buff.
They don't have to change in cap though.
No,
I'm not saying that they are or that they will.
I don't think they'll touch it.
No,
I don't either.
I'm just saying if they do, and it makes Lockjaw able to die on click 6, right?
Right. Then our opinions will change.
But no. I think that was already a weakness, and he was the best doggo.
Right.
If in cap does that, like the ability to take 2 actions on 6 is still a huge enough buff. Like he is better in either situation than he is right now.
Well, they can't kill him with in cap on click 6 anyway, right? They can't.
No, they can't.
If they have one, if Lockjaw has 1 token and they cap him,
right? But what I'm saying, under the new rules, there's no way they can in cap him and kill him. Right.
Yeah, that's why we're saying he.
Right. So they don't, even with no changes to in cap.
Right.
Lockjaw's great.
Right. Now the only thing is like being able to be on 1, take a token, and then go to push to 2, where it's arguably his best click.
Right.
But now knowing that he can't die on 6 as easily, now I'm more apt to just be like, okay, I'm not okay with staying on 2. All right, I'll roll for prob. I'll roll it. I'll do it. I can take 2 tokens.
Yeah,
right. That's why it was so good to push to 2. Was that you didn't want to be on 6, so you're just like, I'm playing it safe. I got on 2.
And holy cow, Dan, you might actually roll his power action on click 6. Or not roll, but just give him another infinity token. Like that actually becomes, because I don't think out of all the times I played Lockjaw, I ever gave that power action. Maybe once if he was about to die, and I was like, okay, I give him this token and I live another turn, but I don't ever remember doing that. So
no, the only times I've done it is when Lockjaw was towards the end game and I had the game locked. Pretty much, I almost had it locked, but they still had enough attackers to kill Lockjaw. Instead of trying to KO the rest of their force, if I was on 6, I could start doing the replenish infinity tokens.
So outside of willpower, obviously, and we'll talk about the characters impacted by this, but you can no longer forgo willpower, forgo power cosmic, and say, oh, I'm just going to take pushing damage, because there is no such thing as pushing damage. That leads us to Indomitable. This is kind of the hot topic out of all of this, is Indomitable. Yeah. Indomitable now means nothing. They didn't word the article very well. They said 2 that we didn't select and 1 that we did, and it took me like twice to realize they meant the third one was the one that they meant.
Me too.
Like I was sitting there, like, okay, where did they say, hey guys, this is what we chose? And so I reread it. I'm like, okay.
I just had to wait until you told me which one it was.
So basically, they're just making the stripe shield the normal defense symbol. They're taking away its benefit. In a sense, it's just nothing now. And I don't think that's that big of a deal. Honestly,
it's not. It's the only thing that feels bad in the whole change, though, because it's not something you want, right? You don't want something a different symbol on a figure that does nothing. That's not good game design.
And all the people that are saying, well, you should give everybody that has Indomitable willpower, that would just be nuts. And they actually specifically mention that, like, you'd have characters rolling 5+ dice at the start of every turn. Like, it just get insane. And I think that would make a lot of mid-level pieces maybe too powerful, because that gives them a new rollout of sorts.
I think so too. I think that willpower is obviously now better than it was. So I don't think giving Indom that power spike is good, because Indom you weren't paying that much for, so it's giving them too much of a buff, I think. And there should probably be a between willpower and indom because there wasn't before, and it was weird.
Right.
I thought
Go
about
ahead, Tyler.
only allowing it on a 6, because that might be a good change. But then you run
Right.
into the same problem where it's just you rolling each player's rolling 5 dice a turn. So I'm not sure what they could have done, but it does feel a little bad that
And they
there's
didn't want
just
feel bad moments where players would forget to use it. That's what they said in their article.
that's gonna happen.
Yeah. So I mean, here's the thing, right? It's a huge power buff across the board.
Yeah.
For everybody except for indom users.
Everybody except for indom users. Now, here's the thing. The quote unquote point formula changes over the years. Right? Is anybody really still actively complaining that the shield sniper from Infinity Challenge is now completely undercosted because he's got too much range for 18 points? No, not really.
Yeah,
sure
someone's still debating that on Realms.
Right. Or like, I mean, that's just an example, right? But, here's the thing. Like, the ability to double act without taking the damage was built into those characters' cost originally. So, yeah, now they are, say, overcosted by some extent.
Talking about indom figures, right?
I'm talking about MDOM users, right? They are now maybe feeling slightly overcosted, but as a meta player, or a competitive player, there are so many things now that are undercosted.
Yeah, it's definitely a huge rebalancing across the board, like a sweeping rebalancing of the game.
So, like, I certainly feel for those people. I certainly acknowledge their complaints. But to me, it's like this. If I came up to you, Tyler, and I ripped away the tastiest cupcake you've ever had and just threw it down on the floor and stomped on it, you'd probably be up. All right, whatever. You know what I mean? If I took your Chipotle bowl and I smashed it on the floor, but then I gave you an even bigger Chipotle bowl.
Double meat.
With double meat in it. Right? Mm-hmm. That's what happens when a Pog gets to take 2 action.
Yeah. So I agree. What you're trying to say is indom pieces may have gotten a little bit worse comparatively, but there's a lot of things now that we get to relook at, and there's a lot of things that are going to start being
and that's what we're going to look at here in just a second. Let's talk about real quick the changes to Colossal Stamina. Colossal Stamina is now essentially nothing. It no longer exists. Nope, it is not a thing. Instead they now have added something to the great size wording to where now they can use willpower, but they also succeed on a 3 to 6, so that's a 66% chance of succeeding. So it's kind of like Colossal Stamina. I mentioned this in our group chat, whether rolling at 66% chance is better than a guaranteed chance while taking 1 damage. Like, what is the trade-off there?
I think it's definitely better. I think it just got better. Just real quick, so the only difference between Giant and Colossal now is that one can reach 1 more square.
And breakaway and carrying and all of that stuff.
Yeah, breakaway and
but
carrying.
Yeah, that's
true. Okay.
Yeah, I mean that was fundamentally the only difference before.
Well, right? No, before one had Colossal Stamina, one didn't.
Oh, that's right. Giants didn't have stamina, did they?
Yeah, no.
That's right, because it literally says it in the word Colossal Stamina.
It's just confusing because the only giant that was ever used Wendigo had Colossal Stamina, so it's confusing.
But he's still fine.
We'll
get there. We'll get there.
Yeah, I think it's better. I don't know. The odds just seem so good to me because it's, again, you get to roll it twice before you ever reach your second token. and odds are you're getting the first one off, so then it just resets. It would be interesting if someone did the math on like average. If you take an action every turn, which turn you actually have to stop, like the average. I would guess it's probably turn 6 plus, is my guess, because of how high the chance is, and like that's so long.
Okay. The only other major change, and yes, Spencer White, now we can see Alex's true Pog team. You just wait until I roll out the Super Pogs. Man, you know who would have loved this? This actually fixes, what's her face? Gertrude and Old Lace? Remember Old Lace? They used to have Gertrude and Old Lace where she would take the token.
Oh, thank God.
She would take the pushing damage for Old Lace. And then they're like, nah, that's unavoidable. We're not allowing that to transfer. Well, now Old Lace can just take 2 tokens and still live. I miss that piece.
That also reminds me, Alex, that our Krakoa episode that I have yet to publish is going to be outdated, but I'm going to try to get that up tomorrow. Maybe I should have tried to post that today.
It's okay. We didn't really talk much about I don't think this affects a lot of what we talked about, but
just that the Pogs have more power now.
It's just that the Pogs.
Oh yeah, that's true. I forgot
right.
the Pog talk. That's funny. Anyway, the team abilities only changes Masters of Evil. They were basically gutted, and it's a worthless team ability now. So. Let me say, when an adjacent friendly character makes a close attack, modify the target's defense -1 if the target is adjacent to this character.
It goes from being on the strong side of team abilities to on the weak side, I would say.
You're never copying this ability.
Okay, so I wanted to say,
I don't know if that's true.
I want to say that it's probably not that great for competitive.
Yeah.
Okay. But having that close combat, and I want to just go ahead and say it's close combat PD team ability, is going to make a lot of people very happy that love to play like the Wrecking Crew and that sort of stuff. I know some play groups that are probably going to really enjoy this change, right?
I guess so. It's still bad, but I guess so. I see what you're saying.
It's bad. I think it's bad for competitive. There's probably only a few very niche instances where it could ever be used.
Let's actually talk about some actual figures. I've broken down the slides up ahead based off of the major change in the article. And we'll look at some different figures that got some buffs from this and some that got some nerfs, taken from a video game standpoint. I say this all the time in Teamfight Tactics and League of Legends, so that's kind of where I borrowed this from. So we're going to start things off. Oh, what?
Wait, before you do it, do we all know who the biggest winner is in this? Because there's one.
There's a big winner?
There's clearly the biggest winner of this whole change.
The giant juggernaut?
No. It's Jason. Jason Weingard got a huge buff. Okay, I just want to make sure he's on there because that's just the figure to me.
All right, so first we're going to start with talking about no pushing damage. All the figures that get buffs and nerfs from not being able to take pushing damage. It's a mechanic that some people have embraced as a fallback to get off activation clicks, stuff like that. So we could talk about the nerfs first because that's, I'm a guy that likes to talk about bad news and end with good news. So the major ones that take a nerf, no matter what anyone says, Immortal Hulk takes a nerf here.
I think it's a very big nerf. I think he's almost on.
Immortal Hulk may be close to unplayable.
Right.
And that's because we know that there's the ring, what ring is it? It's an I word, isn't it? Influence, thank you. The influence ring, but with the ability to just get it stolen or destroyed so easily currently, it's not reliable, especially since Hulk. He's not played on the theme team.
Yeah. Yeah, almost ever. He could be, and maybe he finds a place there, but I find it very hard to spend 100 points on an unthemed guy, where if your 5-point thing gets destroyed, he's literally 100-point outwitter, and like that's it.
Yeah, you would have to. The only other thing I could think of outside of that is if you have, and I've done this, I had to do that in the summer event, is you have someone with Pulse Wave, and then you get both of them into the fray, so that way you're targeting him also with Pulse Wave.
Yeah. Or you can EE, right? That'll work too.
There are some workarounds.
It's considerably harder though.
Yeah.
Now the only thing there would be is if they change, Pogs being able to pick up objects, or if they change TK to where Mary Jane can't get across the map as far. Some of the things that we rely that theme teams and those sort of things are relying on to steal objects. The Mary Jane Magneto trick with Pharaoh. So it could be seen, right? But as of today, Tuesday, Immortal Hulk is nigh unplayable come May.
And remember, all these rules aren't in place yet. It's not till May. Don't freak out. Don't be like, I gotta summon my Immortal Hulk right now. I gotta get out of there. You've still got plenty of time to play.
Freak out.
Yep. And some things made some minor. There were some minor tweaks in 17.
They backpedaled on some things.
Like you gotta remember, leadership changed from 17 to 18. So that was
they listened to the community, I think, at some point on something, right? Or am I making that up? I feel like they said, we heard some backlash and we decided to change. I don't know. I may be making that up. Another nerf. Now, it's hard to say if she would have seen a lot of play, but Moira X, she's the one that gets powers the longer she goes down her dial. So you could push her once to get her to where she has some decent powers. Well, now with no pushing damage, she just has to take damage. Like, she just has to get out there.
Yep.
So that's a nerf, because if you push her once, she then gets running shot, ESD, and enhancement, so she becomes a lot better on click 2. But not anymore. I put Paparazzi on here because, one, everyone is looking for a way to nerf Paparazzi and Mary Jane Watson. But you can no longer push them to kill them. So if you roll poorly on Mary Jane, you only end up with one Paparazzi, because it's equal to the half of the result, right? So if you roll that 1 and you're like, okay, I'll just push it to death and roll again, because you can only roll if there's no bystanders. We can't do that. You're stuck with whatever you roll.
I didn't think about that. That's a big nerf to people like that. Same with Medusa.
Medusa's okay though, because Medusa's hair dies if they're not adjacent to her. But it's still a nerf.
But
you can't push to death and make a new one.
Yeah, it's still because she can't, because the play was on Medusa, create the Pog, make the Pog attack. Next turn, make the Pog die, and then make another Pog. Now, the Paparazzi nerf is huge, because let's say you roll well. From a trouble alert and troublemaker perspective, you were able to get 9 attacks off in 2 turns. Because if you rolled the 3, you did 3 attacks. Next turn you did 3 attacks, pushed them all, right? And then you created 3 more, and you did 3 more attacks, right? Pacing in your troublemaker, your costed actions for troublemaker, trouble alert timing.
Yeah, so I'm agreeing with what you guys are saying, but I don't think there's a disagreement that, like, if you roll well on Mary Jane, it's still a nerf to her. Because how I was seeing it play, and how I think it should be played, is even if you roll 3, you're pushing them all next turn and making more.
No, I'm saying it's a definite nerf.
It's not a huge nerf. It's still oppressive, but you just now no longer have a reasonable way to get rid of Pogs. So, and Paparazzi, they could take up too much space. You can get them double token, and now you're stuck. You don't have the movement ability that you would like to get them out of the way. They have sidestep, I know, but they can take up space that maybe you don't want them to take up space. Maybe they take up too much line of fire when originally you're used to killing them all, shooting with Punisher War Machine, and then creating more to just block up the road again. Well, that he may ignore characters. I don't remember. Anyway, up next is Omega. This isn't that big of a deal for her. It is a bit because you would push her because whenever she takes any damage, she gets an adaptation token. So pushing her is something you could do to just get an adaptation token and then heal her up via the Carnage Symbiote or support or whatever. So this is a nerf to her. I don't think in the grand scheme it's a big nerf. It's just a nerf. And I'm trying to move along a little bit because we got a lot of figures to talk about. Batman Prime, I completely forgot about Batman Prime in this scenario, and this is actually a pretty big nerf to him. Because you can't push him anymore. He also doesn't have the Colossal Stamina, which he's on the other slide for Colossal Stamina too. So he's kind of reliant also on the Influence Ring and some Perplexes. Now, I know the typical strategy was pump him full of Perplexes, but I've seen him also played with a lot of hitting him with Influence, pushing him down to make it where you don't have to have the Perplexes and the damage. So this is a nerf to him, in my opinion, because he just can't get to those extra clicks like he would normally.
Assuming, and I know it's probably on the next slide, assuming his Colossal Stamina doesn't get an errata, a general errata.
So for the buffs, I went through and looked at all the figures that had the shield without the slash on there. And we did real quick, Spencer White asked, does Starter Flash see more play to try to damage friendlies the same way Pushing did?
It's
maybe with
possible,
Hulk.
And I think there are other figures that can do it too.
Human Torch. Human Torch can, I think.
I
think so.
The good portion of the JOU starter set and the JOU set got a huge buff anyway. So like Starter Flash didn't have Indom, or didn't have willpower, whatever, and he got a huge buff. So I think to answer Spencer's question, yes, lots of great
60
ideas.
Points. There. So I mean that could be a decent way to get Hulk back, because it's just 60 points, and if you're playing non-theme, you could play him and have him. He has an 11 attack at 60 points, and you could play him, and he has to hit a 4 to knock him on there. That's not bad. So good thought, Spencer. I didn't even think about that. So the buffs were to the people that don't have Indom. So Mandarin gets a buff. He doesn't need Galactus now. He could just roll how he normally rolls. Lavernian Engineer, I put that on there because it's a fairly played, it's a okay pog, but now he doesn't push to death. It's huge, though, for the next 4. Oz is kind of a Oz can now TK twice in a row instead of taking damage. And
it's huge for him. I think it's really good for him.
Ooh, yeah, because he goes down a defense, I think, on his second
I think
click.
so. But it's huge for Ace. Ace has TK, but she loses that power click 2. So you can only TK once, and then you got to rest her. So now that's not that big of a deal. Huge upgrade for Danger Room Sinister. I always hated that he didn't have Indomitable. He's only 40 points, but I hated that he just kept taking damage because you just want him in the middle of the fray, outwitting, poisoning, like all of that. And now he can without taking that damage, because to him 1 damage is precious because he only takes 1 damage from attacks. So that's big. Coulson is a big one because he loses.
Yeah, he loses his carrier. Right?
Coulson,
yeah, he loses his carrying ability from click 1. Yeah.
Push him.
Yeah, so that's a big one also.
I
love Coulson.
That burrito bowl is filling up with more meat and sour cream, Tyler.
And then, Dan, you mentioned Dr. Fate in our group chat also, that the Fates don't have Indomitable. Well, now they don't care. So,
yeah.
Like, the first thing I thought it was Fast Force's Giant Girl. I know she's not modern.
You got Mighty H on the brain.
You always have
There
to
was-
push her to death.
Dude, I'm just, whoo! Like, when you mentioned Danger Room Sinister, I let out an audible woohoo in my office to myself.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it changes a lot of figures. These figures have gotten substantial buffs.
All right, so next slide. Let's talk about some Colossal stamina changes. So the nerfs are the ones that have Colossal stamina that wouldn't normally have Colossal stamina. So that's your Juggernaut. Sorry, Tyler. That's your God Emperor Doom, Punisher War Machine. Ultron has Colossal stamina through Masters of Evil. Batman, and then the Chase Captain Marvel, that was already
Carol Danvers.
borderline not good, is now a little worse.
Yeah. And then just a huge asterisk here. My guess is that they make a sweeping change, like an errata saying Colossal figures that used to have Colossal stamina now have 3 through 6. Or they might even make it 4 through 6 to make it not quite as good or something like that. But they just have to change that.
Yeah, I mean it's just a pointless wording now. It means nothing. And
Colossal stamina seems like something that you did sink a considerable amount of points to have. So
You mean like 15 for Wendigo?
all right, that's fair. Or 40 for Batman. I don't know. It just seems like such a huge nerf to so many people. I just, in my opinion, they're going to change it.
If they did change it, then it would be massive buffs to all of these pieces except Batman. Because now you don't have to worry about Juggernaut. Because Juggernaut's hard to kill anyway, for the most part. God Emperor Doom is hard to kill anyway. Well, now that I don't have to take damage and I could just have a chance of removing a token, that's big. That's huge. Especially a good chance, like the Colossal Stamina people. So, yeah, I hope that happens. Buff-wise, basically, Onslaught, I didn't even think about Onslaught until I saw him. That's huge for Onslaught. Being able to remove a token on himself a lot of the time. Because now, I know he has the free TK and the free mind control, but now he could just a machine gun back there. 66%.
Well, he could always
Wait a
do
minute.
that. He would just take damage.
So wait a minute. The Brotherhood hasn't
Right.
changed yet, right?
Nope.
Ooh, so man, that 10 through 12.
Yeah, he's double dipping on action token removal.
I think this is a big buff to him.
And that's
So I'm,
same reason for the Juggernaut there. He's basically almost 66% of the time he's removing a token. But when he removes a token, he heals. He also can remove tokens from breaking stuff, and he has that team ability, I'm pretty sure. So he's gonna be healing a lot more than he used to.
Yeah, and Juggernaut, I feel like you were more inclined to be willing to use Colossal Stamina. Onslaught, I don't feel like you were, because you didn't want to use the prop shape change, or it's just the shape change, and lose invuln to go to super senses. So you were very, unless it was dire straits, less likely to push Onslaught. And also he's got the free TK or mind control, so it's like, why do that? Well, now he could just boop around the map a lot because he keeps removing tokens, and now I could just boop over to your area and mind control you again. So I think this is big for him because he's a piece that has seen play, has won in different events, and now he gets a nice little chunk of change. I put Nimrod on there just because I'm thinking of the self-leadership, just being able to remove tokens so easily as a Colossal is such a big deal.
I think it's just a buff to Colossal figures in my book. It's better than
Yeah.
And
Stamina.
now where did we put 2x2 jugs?
That's what we.
Well,
were
no,
just
where did
talking
we-
about.
But yeah. So but Colossal, it's 2x2 jugs because he's just a giant, right? Or is he a
giant.
Colossal?
Yeah, but
Yeah, it's
giants
just
get
great
it, remember?
size gets this power.
Right, great size, grand.
But okay,
So that's why Wendigo gets it too.
But a 2x2 jugs doesn't have colossal stamina.
He didn't. No, he did. He has it on
Yeah.
his white box power.
But it
doesn't mean anything now, but he gets the buff from the new rollout, the new token removal.
The rollout, yeah, the 3/6 rollout is just from great size, so he gets that now.
I got you. I'm following, but he also is in that possibly taking a little bit of a hit if they don't do something with colossal stamina.
No, because we were talking about the change for colossal stamina would be matching what great size will now have. So he's already getting that because he's already got great size. And I would be a fool to mention, because Aaron Morgan was in chat, he might still be here. Starro obviously gets a big buff from this as well. Dan, you kind of mentioned it earlier as well. Being able to just keep mind controlling and not having to push. Because usually with Starro, you would just keep using Colossal Stamina because he's got a pretty lengthy dial at 100 points. But once you hit click 3 and go down to 10 attack, it's not nearly as fun. So... exactly. So being able to just be like, all right, I'm just going to hopefully keep rolling out and just keep getting that action token off, and I'm going to keep mind controlling you and have fun with that. Now, the one downside I would say to, I mean, he still has the ability to KO the Starro fights. You don't have the ability to just push them to death to kill them, so that way you can mind control and put another one adjacent. So that's like a minor little nerf. Because you could use a Starro fight to pick up an object and run him back to KO him, and the object falls, and then you can mind control Starro to pop out another Starro fight. That's kind of gone, but overall, I think the buff is just big.
And you can get the Starro fights out faster because you can move them out twice, right? So
True.
It's still a buff to the Starro fights. There's a lot
of let's go,
and Jay Sanson just said that, and those pogs stay out longer. So yes.
Yeah. So. Yeah.
Yeah. So looking at the screen, if you were to gauge it, the nerfs look worse than the buffs, but I think we're expecting these nerfs to hopefully get an errata and fixed. Now, how do we feel if they just come out and don't change anything? They're like, oh well. Does that make Juggernaut, God Emperor Doom, Punisher War Machine just not playable? Or
I think it affects some more than others. It feels like it hurts Juggernaut pretty bad. I don't even think you'll see play if he can't be Colossal Stamina. And it also
which one?
The smaller one. Okay. It also feels like it would feel real shitty to me because I specifically when I was designing the figure, I'm like, I want this guy to be able to move every turn. He is unstoppable. That's like the first thing I said. But we'll see. Some like Punisher War Machine, it's not as bad for him, right? Because he can make the free attack.
I think it's a big nerf to God Emperor Doom.
Yeah, for sure that too. He especially on his stop clicks, he wants to be able to act because he has, he wants to be able to attack to heal.
That's right. Yeah, I think God Doom's affected. I think Punisher War Machine. Honestly, for me, it does put him probably at the very edge of playability, assuming they don't fix him, right? Because, being able to Colossal Stamina, kill something, then heal, right? Same thing with God Doom, right? They want to be able to keep acting. Same thing with Juggernaut. These figures were designed to keep acting.
Yeah, that's why two of them have Steel Energy, and the other one is always equipped with Steel Energy.
Right.
So.
All right.
That's right.
Power Cosmic. So these are all the characters that got, I feel like, a big bump in this. And Quintessent also. Because now they all have willpower, which now also gives them a token removal. Now, sure, it is only, a 33% chance? Like, it's a 4 through 6. Oh, it's 5 and 6. So, yeah. So it's like a self-leadership. But we have Galactus. I think this might get Galactus played more.
I think the Galactus dial is way better. Like, way better.
Yeah, that too. I think it's just granting the Power Cosmic. This is a buff to that because it just wasn't enough, I think, to really be like, 25 points just to have protected outwit. Well, now you got the additional thing.
You know who should be on here? Franklin
I
Richards.
I debated about that one.
He gives your whole team power cosmic. That's
Fantastic
your
Four.
whole
They have
team
that
gets to roll
Fantastic
every
Four
turn. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty big, though. I didn't think that's a huge.
But most of these, I was mostly going for tent poles with this, because now Omega, I don't have to worry about trying to play a leadership. I could to double up my chances, but now it's like spend the money or the points, I mean, to get a leadership piece to make sure I'm not out actioned. You don't necessarily have to do that. You have your own self-built leadership. So like we were talking about, this helps tent poles. That's why I kind of put these out there, because all of these figures you would try to fit potentially a leadership perplex or something like that, and now you don't have to. It's not a requirement. You still can to make the option even better. And then Dark Phoenix is an interesting one because now she could just keep a rolling.
I will say that Dark Phoenix should not be on this.
I know, she could have been on the other one. I get it. Yeah. I had her on this first, and then I was like, oh yeah, she's got the colossal size. But I put her on here anyway. So, but either way, this is just a net buff. There's no nerfs to this. It's just generally better for everyone that has power cosmic.
Pretty huge.
Yeah,
right? Like hugely better.
And I feel like it's worth saying that by power cosmic you mean cosmic energy, quintessence, and the Q, and the
yes,
Q.
all of those, everything that grants willpower. Yes, to be fair. Now, I didn't have this on the list to talk about, but you know, people have been talking about whether rotation is going to happen. Do you think now with all these changes, they're gonna push rotation and not delay it and say, let's get more of these figures that have these old things out and use the new rules as a tipping point and say, oh yeah, well, you know, there wasn't a lot of competition, so we weren't gonna not do rotate. We were gonna pause rotation, but now these new rules and and this is day one, so it's like, all right, this is the only first stop that we know of all these changes.
I don't think so. It doesn't feel that way to me. It seems like they're really trying to make this backwards compatible as much as possible. So it's not something that you need to rotate to sort of have everything cohesive, right? It doesn't. If they make new figures, they won't feel different than the current figures with these changes. If that makes sense.
So I was always of the camp that rotation is most likely going to happen, and I will be surprised if it doesn't, not the other way around. So I think that doesn't change. This doesn't change my opinion of that, right? Rest in peace, TMNT4.
Yeah, and I'm not suggesting they're gonna like bump it up and take out everything to get rid of all the old stuff. Not at all.
No, it would just be a normal. I think you're trying to say is, and I agree, is that normal retirement. I feel that normal retirement is most likely going to happen at the end of June, beginning of July, like it always does. And I will be pleasantly surprised if it doesn't.
Yeah, and remember, during the last Rules Challenge, they still allowed old stuff to be around. It was just retired stuff. They had it in the back of the pack or something that said this is what, outdated or whatever they said for it. It's these are retired things and they could do something, you know, you could still use the powers how they were originally. Like when we lost Sharpshooter, I feel like Sharpshooter you could still technically use it, but it just wasn't in the main thing.
What you're saying, yeah. And that would be something that could force an early retirement, because there weren't any more printed with Sharpshooter, but it seems like these.
All right, so let's
depends on the rest of the article.
So let's talk a little bit the lesser known pieces, the pieces with actually printed willpower. These are the pieces that you would see revealed and be very disappointed, outside of Jason, of course. But, you know, I remember trashing Silk because I'm like, why? She's a super rare. She has printed willpower. Like, why? Why is this a thing? Well, now it's probably doesn't make her playable, but it's still something that now she has charged super strength, I think. So now it's like, hey, I could charge up there, push, and then maybe I remove a token and she just keep going. Because she has traded super senses also, I believe. It's good for Mother because she could TK twice,
definitely.
or TK twice in the sense that TK and then next turn TK again, because you don't want her to take damage because she's going to probably take damage from her tidal powers. So you really don't want to double up with
Well,
pushing her.
She wouldn't push before.
Well, that's true. That's true.
But she could take it 3 turns.
Exactly.
Daredevil's on here. It's actually kind of a nerf to Daredevil, right? Don't you always push Daredevil?
No, not necessarily.
Okay. You know, you don't have the option. I always, whenever I see him played, people always push him.
Yeah, I mean, you certainly could to get to the perplex. You know, I don't think Daredevil is just sadly just not playable anyways anymore much.
Like less so, but
I mean, maybe with the nerf to the quote unquote nerf to paparazzis and Mary Jane,
right.
Maybe, but I think you can just still attack him so much that the change is not completely relevant to him.
Ultra Humanite is good. I didn't think about that. I feel like he should be played more.
He was for a hot second. I don't like when it came out. I remember Jason was playing him on the scientist team. Had a couple of one or two of them, and I've seen him on other teams. It's just he's.
Yeah, I've seen him around a little bit, but he seems better than what I see him play, I guess.
So outside of Jason, the other ones that I put on here, I put Kid Omega on here partly because I'm sad that he's just a terrible figure.
Yeah.
Because Kid Omega is awesome. He's an Omega level mutant, and he's just not good. This at least lets him remove a token and maybe keep mind controlling, because he does. I mean, he has improved targeting elevated in characters, so he's not terrible at mind controlling, but it's just sad. And then Shade is an interesting one. Did you already talk about Shade? Shade's an interesting one because she could boop around with a power action to an unheld object. And so, but she would push if she did it again. So, Shade the Changing Girl, yes. So this would actually give her the ability to just keep booping around. Yeah, so that's like a minor buff. I mean, obviously the biggest buff out of this was Jason Weingard. He didn't need this buff.
I gotta talk about this. It's such a huge Jason buff. It's so he can already roll to remove an action from himself. He's double dipping. Like he gets to roll it twice. His pogs don't push, right? He gets to make cats that don't push himself to death. Like he got such a big buff with these changes.
Right.
He didn't need at all.
And his buddy that he's played with a lot.
Also, yeah.
I mean, we haven't said it yet, guys. Vulture. Yeah. Oh, is it on a slide yet?
I tried to ignore Vulture. Period.
Vulture did get a buff.
Vulture doesn't take a push, guys.
Now it's not like the biggest buff to Vulture, but it is definitely a buff to Vulture.
It helps his pacing out quite considerably.
I would say, though, if you are the opponent going against Vulture, and if you were relying on him pushing himself, you were gonna have a bad time anyway. So this is a little bit of a nerf to the opponent, buff to Vulture. Buff. I don't see it as being substantial. Now people are gonna be like, let me play Vulture now that I don't have to worry about pushing damage. It's like.
Well, I mean,
his attack drops too.
It bigger number better.
His attack does go down. It does not anymore. Yeah.
I mean that changes the math. What, 10% or so?
Something like that. But I did so. Full disclosure, I saw somebody complain about this on Facebook, and then Kenny Pena said, "Just wait." So we'll see how Vulture fares after.
Maybe I'm hoping.
No. Now I want to. Let's be clear. Let's not spread false information. Ed posted, "Well, this makes Vulture better," and then Kenny posted a GIF comment that said, "Just wait." Kenny did not say "just wait."
I mean,
GIF comment.
Well, whenever you post a gift, you're saying what the gift says, right?
Deniability. Kenny has plausible deniability. You don't know what he meant by that.
That's exactly correct, folks. There is plausible deniability here. Let's
accidentally hit the wrong GIF button. Well,
and what if he accidentally hit the wrong GIF button and it was the GIF of this Vulture from the Spider-Man where he flies in and is like whoosh.
Well, I hope that means that they're gonna fix after resolutions.
You say that, but what does that mean? After resolutions,
it's not
completely fine.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is. There's so many characters and things that rely on after resolutions. You can't fix it. What could be fixed would be at no cost, right? They could just remove that wording from the game, and then they could only charge once. That would be something.
Yeah,
that would also
I could see that.
Jason, but you can't fix after resolutions, because what does that mean? Resolutions happen, and then things happen after.
They could fix it if they fixed active player. If they changed how active player worked, where active player doesn't necessarily have the be-all, end-all for deciding the order of things, and they actually gave a hierarchy or something, I guess. Like, that's what they specifically said. Like, we're trying to avoid having a hierarchy of how actions resolve, but maybe they're like, you know what, this is just getting a little crazy, and how active player. Maybe they just, I mean, considering what we saw today, such a massive change, everything's on the table at this point, right? Like, they could completely and this is day one, they could radically change day 2 or day 3. So it wouldn't surprise me if they did something like that, but I agree with what you're saying. It would be very difficult. They would have to basically completely change how actions end, a fundament of the game, how it finishes.
Yeah, I mean, pushing damage, crit misses, mystics.
Sounds like to me you're naming off the list of things they're fixing. Pushing damage was number 1. Tomorrow mystics.
But you know what? All right, maybe we'll see.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Ooh, too much speculation.
Speculation is a little fun for today, but I think that's the last slide I had. Rip to Masters of Evil. My boy Ultron didn't really. I never really used Colossal Stamina with Ultron because I didn't really want him to take damage, because he didn't like that. His stats plummet and he gets bad abilities eventually. But I think it does make a big deal to Absorbing Man. Absorbing Man is a piece I wish saw play. And trust me, there is not a lot of Masters of Evil in the game right now. So everybody complaining about Masters of Evil, realize that you're talking about, in Modern, like 15 pieces at most. Like, not much. There's a decent amount in Captain America and maybe some in Black Panther, but there's really not a lot. Maybe more than 15, now that I look at it, maybe like 20. But not big pieces that you're excited to play. 5 of those are from the Battlegrounds set. So rip to them. It was really, because they changed it. It was a cool. Didn't they change it to Masters of Evil, or has it always been Colossal Stamina?
No, they changed it in 2017, I think.
I think they mentioned it in the article.
I think Masters of Evil always used to.
Yeah, they mentioned in there their previous TA was so close to Colossal Stamina that we couldn't justify it not being Colossal Stamina. And then they decided, well, we don't want Colossal Stamina anymore. I wish it could have been a little cooler.
Well, I mean, we had just talked about on our Tentpole episode that how Black Widow ruined Ultron for so long. And now he was getting ready to make a comeback, and that he could Soul Gem and do the Masters of Evil thing.
But even still, though, I mean, I wouldn't want a Colossal yeah, the Soul Gem, I get it. I don't think it's not that big of a deal for him, I don't think. But the new TA means nothing to him. Because he would have to be adjacent to someone and someone else attacking someone. And you don't want Ultron adjacent to anybody, generally. Because he's a long-range shooter. His powers don't cater to being right next to someone. He can, but that's not his wheelhouse. So useless. Basically, it turns into a fairly useless team ability for Ultron, which is sad. But the only use you have now is if you wanted to try to pull the well, I don't think you had to have the team ability. I think you just had to have the keyword to pull the Baron Zemo trading out for Thunderbolts and trading his attack power. I remember that was a fun little theory craft when Ultron came out, how we could spread his 14 attack to Sinister Syndicate people, I think was possible at some point, but yeah, rip to them. But anyway, I think that's all we've got for this. It's been about an hour, and it's just one day. Who knows? We might pop up tomorrow to have to talk about another article.
I guess it depends on how controversial.
Yeah, I definitely want to get out there and start talking about some of these pieces because everyone was talking about how terrible this is. It's such a bad ruling or changing, but I think it helps a lot more, like we mentioned at the beginning, it helps a lot more people than hurts people. Sure, the people it hurts might be main meta pieces that we're used to using, and that might be why it feels a little bit more impactful.
Or a piece that, you won a world championship and got to
Yeah,
create.
that too. It's a little close to home to us.
They better fix something. I'm thinking about it more.
Now, Aaron Morgan, before we left, before we log off, he wants to let us know that MODOK actually gets really good, or gets better, because he's a giant, so he has great size. So now he could just keep it going if you want to use.
Giants got a lot better, right?
There's not that many giants out there actually, but
there's not.
Wait a minute, MODOK was a giant from
Yep.
CAAV? Oh, shit.
Yeah. So now he can just 66% chance to just remove a token from him, and he could just keep it going and keep a mind control, running shotting, whatever. So. Peter Melton mentions Weapon H. Nobody plays Weapon H, unfortunately, but
that guy was almost.
Is he good enough now?
Does Weapon H? Did Weapon H have colossal stamina?
I think he's a giant.
Or is he a giant?
He's a giant. Yeah. That guy.
He might be in the situation where he had both. I don't know.
No, he didn't have colossal stamina. He was close.
Yeah, Weapon H keep removing tokens. I mean, I guess you need to really just look at any of these giants and colossals now.
Oh, you know who kind of, maybe it's not even a joke, gets better? Is Eugene Torbett Witterspan, the breakdancing juggernaut.
Ugh.
He's a giant now. That's a pretty substantial buff.
At what point value are you thinking?
At 25 points, right? He's a 25-point scientist carry, right? He can keep Quake. If he hits, they can only be given move actions. So if you can keep him from taking tokens, you can just keep hitting him with that,
Huh. He might even be better than the actual token.
After all said and done. That's true. Oh, Colossus, too. The
prime one.
This changes all juggernauts. That's what I'm hearing from this. All juggernauts have been massively changed from this change. Oh, Mojo too.
Mojo's kind of in the wheelhouse though. That he was a lot better with ID cards. Matt Groenheid mentions that he said, I feel like we should have seen this change coming a while ago. The last two releases that were really targeted at new players, WWE and the Avengers vs. Masters of Evil, both had Indom printed on every character.
definitely true. This change makes me like appreciate game design more, and that I should not be a game designer. Because whenever WizKids does something, oh, not whenever, but a lot of the times, I'm like, man, this is such a good change, and it was so obvious. And then I'm like, but I've never thought about this before. So, like it is an obvious change when you hear it, and it was a problem. I just never really thought about it.
Yep.
Barbatos. Barbatos is a giant.
Ooh, Barbatos,
Right,
let's go.
So yeah, giant's a lot better. There's a lot of stuff. Is there anybody else that can remove action tokens from themselves, like as a power? I know there's people, but I can't remember who they are.
The starter, was it the starter Doom with his leadership?
Could he? I think something like that. Some Doom had that power.
Let's see. Leadership, but instead removes the action token from himself. But he's only got minions of Doom. Yep.
So he actually doesn't have willpower anywhere. He doesn't have willpower cosmic.
And that's just leadership that he removes the action token. Oh.
Yeah, I was thinking he had power. I was thinking he had power cosmic and that special leadership.
Yeah. King Thor. That's what I was thinking.
You also have all the
he has power
Justice. You have all the Justice League Unlimited people that have that roll a d6, and if you roll a 6, you remove one from 100 points or less.
The entire Justice
League
got a lot better.
I think I could do a whole brand new set review on JLU after this rules change. Starter Flash, Starter Manhunter, Dr. Fates, The Question. Lots.
Yeah, it's crazy. I'm of the opinion that even if this was like you somehow were able to measure this subjective thing out and it became a completely 50-50 on everything, where it wasn't a good or bad change, it still would be good to me, because this, like, if you look at every figure different now. It's like really cool. How it shakes up the entire meta, and this is day one, so this is really, I'm really excited.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting. We should wait on re-reviewing the Justice League Unlimited, because who knows, day 3 might be like, after discussions with DC Comics, we have decided to ban all DC figures from the, I don't know, something stupid. Someone mentioned, get ready for Barbatos, Ellie, Peter Melton mentioned, get ready for Barbatos, Ellie, Nightmare, and Wendigo monster theme. All Wendigos can share Nightmare's 14 attack?
Yeah. So yeah, that's true. I actually saw somebody play that team before.
So that's like 200 and something points plus Wendigos.
I think it's 225 in Wendigos. I'm pretty sure. Which is Nightmare. I think it was 125.
Oh yeah, because Batman Enemy. That's what it was.
Nightmare.
That was the link I was missing.
Nightmare is
so 235. So you could play 4 Wendigos.
4 Wendigos. Yep. Not bad. Not bad. You equip Nightmare with something.
He needs something. He's only got phasing teleport. Choose an opposing character with 2 action tokens. Place Nightmare such that you can make it. That's later in the dial. And you're never getting there. Yeah, can't push them to do that now.
So. True.
All right. Well, I think we've talked all we could talk about at this rules change. If we come up with any cool topics, we could just throw it on the podcast, I guess. But yeah, I think that's it. Do you guys have anything else you want to talk about before we end the live stream? Tyler, I know you.
Nope.
Tyler, you got 17 minutes until Among Us, so.
Yeah, that's true. Something to eat.
All right.
Oh, yeah. See, I guess.
Yeah, so anyway, thank you guys for watching. We might be back tomorrow, or I might just be back. Whoever, someone will be back tomorrow if there's another article that deserves some talking. So, thank you guys for watching.
Yeah. How about this, guys? Thanks everybody for watching. We'll talk to y'all next time.
See ya.
See ya.